And the first thing we're gonna go with is monsters. Usually in Traptrix deck, you don't play that many monsters, so you're gonna have to add them in some way. And that one's sole purpose for that is this card, Mantis. It's pretty good because when you normal summon it, you get to add a Traptrix monster from deck to hand. It's unaffected by hull traps, as all Traptrix monsters are. It has a secondary effect where you can return a spell trap that you control back to hand to replace it with another one. But not a lot of people are going to use that much. You play 3 of these, just so you can draw one in hand. The next monster is Mermelio. What Mermelio does, instead of adding a monster, it adds a trap hole card. And also, if it's special summon, it pops one spell trap that your opponent controls. And usually that's going to be happening a lot, because with your extra deck monster, you're going to be summoning this many times. Every time you activate a trap card, you'll summon it. Every time you normal summon an effect monster like Daonea, where it can special summon from grave a Traptrix monster, you would activate Mermelio's effect. If Daonea was special summon, you can add a trap hole from grave and set it to your field. But be aware, because that will be banished during the end phase of your next turn. And for Mermelio, I play three Mermelios, because it's always good to have one in hand sometimes. And 2 Daoneas, because you don't always want this in hand. Sometimes you'll add it, sometimes it's honestly it's just there for like turn 2, turn 3, just to bring out a rank 4 or summon an extra body to link out. Nephthys, I only play 1. It's an extender. Just when you play trap hole cards, you get to special summon a Traptrix monster from deck. Usually I would bring this out of Sarah and put in defense position. Only play this if you have a trap hole, because if you don't, it's just going to be there to 2k defend monster. 1 Vesiculio, because it could be summoned from hand, but you can always add it with Mantis. And if you do, you can have 2 level 4s, or you can link 1 into Sarah and summon Vesiculio by sending a spell trap from deck to grave. Not from deck to grave. From field to grave. And if you do that with Sarah on field, Sarah will let you set a trap hole from deck onto field. And you would have 2 Traptrix monsters. Now we're going to the other monsters that aren't Traptrix, which is Parallel Exceed. Reason why you play Parallel Exceed is because you always link 1 for Sarah using a Traptrix monster. And Exceed just brings out 2 level 4s, which is always good for a rank 4 deck. I play it in Ghost Tricks too. Sometimes that helps. Another trap card, another monster card, well, trap/monster, would be the Shade Brigade, where you play with Sarah, because if you have no traps, you can activate it. And since Sarah plays when a trap is activated, it special summons a Traptrix monsters from deck, and therefore you would have 2 level 4 monsters. This is treated as a normal monster when it's summoned. Another monsters that you play is 3 Ash and 2 Heavenlies. Heavenly is so good in this deck. It protects your back row just from almost anything. Lightning Storm, RP Feather Duster, Twin Twister. Just protects from a lot of good stuff. And if you activate a spell or trap, or if your opponent activates a set spell or trap, you can summon this from hand and set 1 spell or trap, any spell or trap from your deck. And it's so good just to set any spell trap, such as Solemn Judgment, or Ice Dragon, or Infinite Impermanence, just to counter your opponent to make a comeback. We're gonna move on to the trap holes, which is Gravedigger Trap Hole, trap card that helps with negating hand traps, cards in grave, cards that activate monster effects from hand, and doing that also deals 200 of life points direct damage to your opponent, which is a pretty good amount of damage if it's if you know, for the final kill, or if you need enough to leave your opponent in a drastic state. Another trap hole would be Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. Negates a special summon monster's effect and destroys it. Network Trap Hole. You can banish a monster they summon from deck or grave face down. They can't really get back. Void Trap Hole. If they're summoning a big beater, you can negate the effect of that monster and then destroy it. Time Space. You can return monsters they special summon from their extra deck or hand back to deck by paying 1,000 for each. And that would do it for trap holes. You don't play a lot of trap holes because the deck mainly adds them or like sends them from deck to grave, like the XYZ monster Rafflesia. But these are always addable and expendable. You just bring them back most of the time. I play 2 Ice Dragons. I play a Storming Mirror Force to protect me from attacks. 3 Solemns to negate any spell or trap or summon. Torrentials. Torrentials are very good considering that your Traptrix monsters aren't affected by trap effects. That only includes 2 extra deck Traptrix monsters though. And it's just good because it wipes the board, or you can summon your extra deck monster, play it, and meaning you activate a trap card so that you can special summon from deck. And 3 imperms, which are good hand traps that you should play because you can either set it and play it, which allows you or Sarah to play an effect, or you can just play it from hand to disrupt an opponent's play. And we play only 1 spell card in the deck, which is double or nothing. Yes, we do play Utopia double. It's a rank 4 if you need to OTK an opponent, or if you need to do enough damage to kill an opponent's monster. Double or nothing is pretty good. In hand, it might become a brick. That'll do it for the main deck. So let's move on to the extra deck. I only play 2 Sarahs because you don't bring Sarah every time, but if you do lose a Sarah and sometimes you need it back, you just have to use an extra Sarah from your extra deck. But Sarah is the main card that you always bring out to link 1. You use 1 Traptrix monster. It's unaffected by traps, so every time a trap is activated, you summon a Traptrix monster from deck. And when a Traptrix monster activates effect, you always set a trap hole from deck. With the other link of the Traptrix monster, it's Caleria. This basically plays Iron Scrap Scarecrow with the trap holes. Every time you activate a trap hole, you can set it back. It's good on reusing the trap holes, making your opponents stuck in a situation where every time they're summoning, that this trap hole comes into play. And during each of your end phase, you can also bring back a Traptrix monster from grave. Meaning you can bring back Mermelio, and if it's summoned, you can just pop a Spell Trap on your opponent's back row. Link 2 I play is IP, and with that we play Nightmare Unicorn, which is good to link and disrupt your opponent. You don't bring this often because you don't bring that much monsters, but if they do lock you out of XYZs, you can go into this. I play Lackluster Soldier. It's just a good Link 3 generic. You can even gain its additional effect by linking off your Heavenly, and it would be kind of indestructible. And the Link 4 we play is Griffin. I would play Axis Code, but Griffin also kind of helps with setting a spell or trap from your graveyard, reusing it. And if it's co-linked, which it would be if Sarah is above the first link of this card, you get to draw one. And what this card does, it also negates the effect of activated effects from special summon monsters, which could disrupt in your opponent's play, making it easier to trap hold them. That will do it for the links in the extra deck, and now we go to the rank 4s of the XYZ monsters. The Traptrix XYZ that we play most of the time is Rafflesia. You always bring this out with Sarah because it's a rank 4 that protects your Traptrix monsters from card effects and by battle. Meaning if they Lightning Storm, they could not pop back row if you have Heavenly, or they could not pop your front monsters, considering that Sarah's in attack position because of Rafflesia in defense position. Rafflesia's effect allows her to send a trap hole from deck to grave in response to what your opponent does, which is really good because if this is on field and you normal summon a monster to add a card from deck to hand, and they play Ash Blossom, you can just play Rafflesia's effect to send a Gravedigger's Trap Hole from deck to grave, and it would negate the effect, and they would take 2,000. The other XYZ we play is Olomoris. You don't bring this card out too often, but it's kind of an extender if you have 3 level 4s, because you can XYZ and then detach 2 to summon from your graveyard, which would be Murmelio or any of the other Traptrix monsters that when they're special summon, they can either pop a Star Trap on back row of your opponent, or you can set a Trap Hold card with Dionea. Also, Olomoris takes your opponent's monsters that could turn the tides of the battle. If they summon a Dragoon, and you negate the summon of that Dragoon and you destroy it, and you can play Olomoris to detach one and take it to and take control of that monster, and basically you have a big 3k body that also can negate cards. Rank 4 that I play is Baguska, who just kind of stalls out the game a bit, gives you enough turns to get a better hand. You just draw cards to hope and search that you get either a setup or a play like your Phantom Knight, Shade Brigade. It's good because Sarah's effect's not negated, so every time you play Trap, you still summon a monster from deck. And another rank 4 would be Time Thief. Time Thief is just a good generic rank 4 that kind of depends on the deck your opponent plays. If they play a lot of traps, you can always keep returning cards that they control back to the hand with Time Thief. If they keep playing spells, you can always send a spell to draw one. And if they're if they play any card to destroy this card, you can just detach a material, banish it. Every time during the standby phase, from both you and your opponent, you can just take a top card of the deck and attach it as an XYZ material. So depending on that monster, spell, or trap, it can use it as that effect. Abyss Dweller, a lot of decks these days play card effects in grave or activate card effects in graves. Which Abyss Dweller comes in play where it can kind of become a small version of Necro Valley. It kind of disrupts your opponent a bit and forcing them to do a different play, which would allow your traps to be activated if you counter the play. We play Utopia and Utopia Double for that double or nothing, just for a 10k beater to run over any monster or OTK your opponent, or to KO your opponent. And that's usually what this card's for, but just careful because I'm pretty sure they can Ash Blossom this, so you want to have Gravedigger just set, and just in case, that extra 2,000 could help too, depending on how high their beater is. And the last but not least, the Divine Arsenal. This card really wipes the board with by changing detaching 2 materials, and it gives control to you since you have the only monster on field, and it can also let you set up again when it's your turn so that they have nothing, but they have to start over. And that will do it for the extra deck. And yeah, that is the whole Traptrix deck that